All right, today we're going on a journey to the high Arctic to get our heads around Svalbard, which is without a doubt one of the most extreme and fascinating places on the entire planet. It's really a story of big opportunities, incredible hardships, and some amazing human ingenuity, all playing out at the very top of the world. So, just how far north are we talking? Well, Svalbard sits at 78 degrees north latitude. To give you an idea of what that means, it's about halfway between the coast of Norway and the North Pole. Yeah, that far north. It's one of the most northerly places on Earth where people live all year round. You know, life here is pretty much defined by extremes. For months on end in the summer, the sun literally never sets. They call it the midnight sun. But the flip side of that coin is the polar night, which means months of complete 24/7 darkness in the winter. And this isn't just some cool fact. This duality shapes every single aspect of life. And in this land of extremes, there's this small, incredibly resilient community. The main settlement, a town called Longyearbyen, has a population of only about 2,500 people. So you have to wonder, what on earth draws people to live and work in a place that's so remote and so challenging? And that question brings us right to our first section, the economic promise. Because despite being so isolated, Svalbard has always been seen as a land of opportunity, a place to tap into the unique potential of the Arctic. The economic story of Svalbard has seen this really dramatic shift. For pretty much the entire 20th century, coal was king. I mean, it built the towns, it was the absolute lifeblood of the economy. But as the world started to change, mining began to decline, and this whole new economy, one focused on tourism and science, started to take its place. And wow, the numbers really tell the whole story of this massive change. At its peak, coal mining employed hundreds of people. Today, only about 40 people work in the last Norwegian mine. But look at tourism. That sector has exploded to employ around 400 people. That's a tenfold difference that just paints a super clear picture of what modern Svalbard is all about. So what does this new economy actually look like? Well, it's pretty diverse. Tourism is huge. We're talking 150,000 visitors back in 2019. Fishing in the incredibly resource-rich Barents Sea is also critical, and what's really fascinating is that its extreme environment makes it the perfect natural lab for renewable energy research, things like solar, hydrogen, and even geothermal power. And let's not just gloss over the importance of fishing. The Barents Sea is an absolute ecological powerhouse, a global hotspot for valuable fish like cod and haddock. This natural wealth is a true cornerstone of the region's economy. But of course, that's only half the story. For every single opportunity you find in Svalbard, there is an immense challenge waiting. So let's flip the coin and look at the other side, the harsh reality of the Arctic. It's one thing to talk about opportunities when you're sitting somewhere warm and comfortable. But what's the true cost? What does it actually take, day in and day out, to live and work in a place that is this unforgiving? Let's start with just one number, minus 30 degrees Celsius. That's a pretty typical winter temperature, and that's before you even factor in the wind chill. At temperatures like that, any work you have to do outside isn't just difficult, it's genuinely dangerous. Productivity grinds to a halt, and simple tasks become these huge, complicated operations. Then you've got the isolation. It's total. You can only get to Svalbard by plane or by ship. This isn't a place you can just drive to, and that means nearly everything, especially food, since you can't really grow anything there, has to be imported. And as you can imagine, that drives up the cost of living a lot. And even when you're there, just getting around is a challenge. The main town of Longyearbyen has a grand total of just 50 kilometers of roads. That's it. There are no roads connecting the different towns. The real highways here are the snowmobile tracks and the open water. So how in the world do you even build a community in these conditions? This brings us to a really fascinating subject, the challenge of engineering for a world that is fundamentally frozen solid. Okay, so the key concept you need to understand here is permafrost. It's basically exactly what it sounds like, permanently frozen ground. Now you might think, great, that's a super solid, stable foundation to build on, right? Well, the reality is way more complicated and actually way more dangerous. Here's the central problem. Any building, just from people living in it and heating it, generates heat. That heat radiates down into the ground, and it starts to thaw the top layer of the permafrost. Suddenly, that once solid ground turns into unstable mud. And the result? Buildings can start to tilt, crack, and in the worst cases, even collapse. So how do you stop that from happening? The solution is as simple as it is brilliant. You build everything on stilts. By raising the buildings up off the ground, that frigid Arctic air can circulate underneath, keeping the permafrost frozen, stable, and solid.
But the threats themselves are evolving. The Arctic is warming faster than anywhere else on Earth, and the very environment is changing. Back in 2015, a truly tragic avalanche, which was linked to unstable snow conditions caused by the changing climate, destroyed several homes in Longyearbyen and killed 2 people. It was this stark reminder of the new dangers in this very fragile place.
So all of this, it all leads to the future. And that future is defined by a really precarious balancing act. A balancing act between human ambition and survival, between opportunity and the overwhelming forces of nature. It really all comes down to this fundamental balance. On one side of the scale, you have the powerful draw of tourism, fishing, and cutting-edge scientific research. But on the other side, you have the crushing reality of an extreme climate, total isolation, and the existential threat of a thawing world. Every single decision made here has to weigh these two sides. So I think the key takeaway is this. Life and development in Svalbard aren't about conquering the environment. You just can't. It's a constant, delicate negotiation between human ambition and the absolute unyielding limits that are set by nature. And that leaves us with a final and pretty urgent question. Svalbard has always been a place of incredible adaptation, but as the Arctic continues to warm up, changing the very frozen foundations this community is built on, can this fragile human foothold at the top of the world truly survive?